So Donald Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act. We saw that happen live yesterday. He'd been threatening to for some time, so it's not entirely a surprise. And he did so to expedite the deportation of hundreds of migrants. Immediate deportation, by the way, like they were put on planes immediately. A judge ordered the removals be stopped, but apparently that order came out when the planes were already in the air. U.S. District Judge James E. Boasberg issued an order Saturday blocking the deportations, but lawyers told him there were already two planes with migrants in the air, one headed for El Salvador, the other for Honduras. Boasberg verbally ordered the planes be turned around, but they were apparently not, and he did not include the directive in his written order. Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele said, "Oopsie, too late." That post was recirculated by White House Communications Director Stephen Chung. So, you know, the ones going to El Salvador, they're going to the infamous super prison that they're planning to keep enemies of the state in. Again, these migrants that have been sent are not members of Tren de Aragua. That hasn't been proven in court. That's the whole point of the Alien Enemies Act. They can just accuse you. Like, to be clear, and this has already happened, if you are an immigrant or undocumented or whatever the hell, not a citizen, and they say, well, you're a Venezuelan, also that tattoo of yours looks like it might be from Tren de Aragua, they can just deport you with no habeas corpus. They can just launch you out there. Here, this was an account shared by a lawyer on X, the Everything app. Returning to X to shine a light on what the Alien Enemies Act looks like IRL. Our immigration defense client fled Venezuela last year and came to the United States to seek asylum. He has a strong claim. He was detained at entry because ICE alleged his tattoos are gang-related. They are absolutely not. Our client worked in the arts in Venezuela. He is LGBTQ. His tattoos are benign. But ICE submitted photos of his tattoos as evidence he is Tren de Aragua. His immigration defense attorney planned to present evidence he is not. But he never got the chance because our client has been disappeared. We last spoke to our client on Thursday before he was supposed to have a hearing in immigration court, but ICE didn't bring him. The government attorney had no info about why he wasn't there. The judge reset the hearing for Monday. We've been trying to contact our client ever since. We emailed and called the Texas facility where he was last held, more than 1,300 miles from the San Diego detention facility he was in when we started representing him. They had no info, and yesterday told us he was no longer there. This morning, he disappeared from our online detainee locator. Our client came to the U.S. seeking protection, but has spent months in ICE prisons, been falsely accused of being a gang member, and today he has been forcibly transferred, we believe, to El Salvador. We are horrified tonight thinking what might happen to him now. The Alien Enemies Act would allow the Trump administration to remove people from the U.S. based on accusation alone. The accusation could be, as it is for our client, completely baseless, but they would remove them anyways, despite the dangers, despite the lack of due process. So that's where we're at. An Air Jordan tattoo got a guy labeled as part of the gang and sent to Gitmo. The classic Tren de Aragua membership tattoo of an Air Jordan. He got sent to Guantanamo Bay for it. Now, with the Alien Enemies Act, there's no need for any kind of legal proceedings. You know? Like, this can just be done. ICE can just do, like, you don't have legal rights anymore. It's not like a remember your rights situation. You don't have to remember a thing, man. You don't have them. They're not there. This is the shelf where I would keep all of my legal rights, if I had them. But if you're a citizen, how do you prove you're a citizen? That's a great question. Do you think they'll listen to you? I mean, they might. Bukele has built a super prison, or is building, or, you know, it's going to be multiple facilities, I assume. But the point here is that this is a foreign prison with basically no human rights expectations, where political enemies can be sent, so Bukele can cut a fat check off of them being housed. Here's him saying, oopsie, too late. That's great, man. It is effectively a concentration camp, considering there are now no longer any legal requirements for being detained there. Today, the first 238 members of the Venezuelan criminal organization Tren de Aragua arrived in our country. Again, I need to be clear, they're not members of Tren de Aragua. At least, it hasn't been proven that they are. It's just 238 people. They might be Venezuelan. I don't know. They might be members of Tren de Aragua. I don't know. You can't contact them. American lawyers don't have access to them. They were immediately transferred to CSOT, the Terrorism Confinement Center, for a period of 1 year, renewable. The U.S. will pay a very low fee for them, but a high one for us. Over time, these actions, combined with the production already being generated by more than 40,000 inmates engaged in various workshops and labor under the Zero Idleness Program, work will set you free, will help make our prison system self-sustainable. As of today, it costs $200 million a year. May God bless El Salvador, and may God bless the United States. It's literally a concentration camp that they're sending people to without habeas corpus, housed in another country where they can't be accessed by lawyers. That's the point. And they're bragging about it. Do MAGAs look at this and jerk themselves raw? This has 141,000 likes. Can you accept this guy next? This is probably some judge. I don't know. We have some extremely corrupt politicians here in the US. Sounds like CSOT is the perfect place for them. Why can't the US prisons have these zero idleness work camp programs too? All we needed was a new president. Thank you, Trump. You've set the standard on how to deal with gangs and criminal filth. Thank you. Etc., etc. They're fascists. That was Adam Schiff? Oh, I guess I don't recognize him at a glance. Elon responded to some of Bukele's tweets with what? Arrow in a target emoji? Laughing, crying emoji? Concerning? No, I don't think he'd say concerning to this. Yeah, well, sorry, I guess, like, I'm trying to think of, like, a way to do analysis on this. You could do more in-depth comparisons with history, I guess. I mean, you're kind of reaching for, like, it's pretty obvious what we're looking at here, you know? These are gulags. They're, they are detention centers where you're sent without trial for being a political enemy or for being members of targeted ethnic groups. Like, they're pretty explicitly, yeah, they're just being outsourced, which is, by the way, what the Soviets did as well, right? They weren't building gulags, you know, in the middle of Moscow or whatever. They were doing them in Siberia, which might as well be a different country for how far away it is and different culturally and economically. The whole point is you send them to nowhere. And El Salvador might as well be nowhere, at least in the context of American politics. It's a backwater compared to us. My apologies for my American chauvinism. The migrants were taken to the notorious CSOT facility, the centerpiece of Bukele's push to pacify his once violence-racked country through tough police measures and limits on basic rights. The Trump administration said the president actually signed the proclamation contending Tren de Aragua was invading the U.S. Friday night, but didn't announce it till Saturday afternoon. Okay. Oh, sorry, the law changed overnight, but we didn't tell you until this afternoon? All right, that's cool. You know what that means? He could do the same thing with the Sedition Act and not announce it till 2 days after, so they'd have 48 hours of people continuing to criticize the government before they realize it's illegal now and they shut up. Like, oh, actually, no, we signed the Sedition Act back into law 2 days ago. They did this so the judges couldn't respond as quickly. Immigration lawyers said that late Friday. They noted Venezuelans who otherwise couldn't be deported under immigration law being moved to Texas for deportation flights. They began to file lawsuits to halt the transfers. Basically, any Venezuelan citizen in the U.S. may be removed on pretext of belonging to Tren de Aragua. Or, by the way, being accused of being a Venezuelan citizen. If they don't have to provide proof that you're a member of Tren de Aragua, why would they have to provide proof that you're Venezuelan? If you're undocumented and can't provide citizenship status to any country, I mean, why not, right? Will you still criticize Trump after he passes the Sedition Act? No. I'm playing a video game. Good night, y'all. Don't speak it into existence. Look, we'll just play like Wolfenstein over and over and over. We're gonna like speed run Wolf. We're gonna play Disco Elysium, Okay, we're gonna passive resistance. Okay, that's what we're doing. The mobile version, right? Lol. Of course. Basically, any Venezuelan citizen in the U.S. may be removed on pretext of belonging to Tren de Aragua, with no chance at defense. Adam Isaacson of the Washington Office for Latin America, a human rights group, warned on X. The litigation that led to the hold on deportations was filed on behalf of 5 Venezuelans held in Texas. Yeah, we talked about this. Once the act is invoked, they warned, Trump could simply declare anyone a Tren de Aragua member and remove them from the country. Boasberg barred those Venezuelans' deportations Saturday morning when the suit was filed, but only broadened it to all people in federal custody who could be targeted by the act after his afternoon hearing, because they delayed announcement of the passage of the act. He noted that the law has never before been used outside of a congressionally declared war, and that plaintiffs may successfully argue Trump exceeded his legal authority in invoking it. Follow-up question. How? How would plaintiffs argue that if they're in CSOT, in El Salvador? They don't have legal rights. They don't have habeas corpus. How would they do that? Well, It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's pretty not great. I was reminded about this through an email, but there is another evil looming on the horizon, which I haven't seen people talk about as much, but I was reminded, so I haven't talked about it as much either. We'll soon get a joint Department of Defense and Homeland Security report on whether or not it's necessary, big finger quotes around necessary, to invoke the Insurrection Act over illegal migration. There was a 90-day period during which the Department of Defense and Homeland Security were asked to determine whether it would be quote-unquote necessary to do that. And 2 months out of the 3 have passed, which would be bad. Say, for example, Trump were to invoke the Insurrection Act and declare martial law, he wouldn't even be required by the letter of the law to allege an insurrection. All that would be required is to assert that unlawful obstruction had made it, quote, impractical to enforce the laws of the United States, which he would do. Would that be the Enabling Act? Well, this wouldn't have to go through Congress. What happens then? The Insurrection Act would give Trump the ability to deploy troops pretty much however and whenever he wanted. It would essentially be martial law. This would be the martial law. This is what martial law is in the United States. This is how dictatorships begin. This began a while ago. Are they actually doing it or just putting their hand in the holster? I don't know. They have 90 days to review it. Hold on. 90-day Insurrection Act, DOD, Department of Homeland Security. It was this one. We talked about it when it came out. This was day 1. Within 90 days of the date of this proclamation, the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security shall submit a joint report to the President about the conditions at the southern border of the United States and any recommendations regarding additional actions that may be necessary to obtain complete operational control of the southern border, including whether to invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807. So that's 90 days, and it's been like 60. Isn't the Insurrection Act also prevents media from criticizing the government? No, that's the Sedition Act. We'll see how things go, I suppose. I thought the Sedition Act was that you can't say lies about the government. Yeah, but what does Trump call lies against him? The Sedition Act doesn't exist, please God. It ceased to exist in 1800. Yeah, well, we're referring to the act. The thing that's at threat of being invoked here is the Insurrection Act, not the Sedition Act. The Sedition Act hasn't happened. Hopefully it doesn't happen. It'd be nice if it didn't happen. Would he do it again? I don't know. I mean, it wasn't just done in under the Adams administration, right? Like they also did it. Was it Woodrow Wilson? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wilson used it during World War I. Yeah, because they wanted to like sell more war bonds or something. Please cover this illegal action. A federal court order required a 48-hour notice before a Rhode Island doctor could be deported. Dr. Rasha Alaway was prevented from re-entering the United States on Thursday. I'm just reading a chat comment. I don't know if I can cover this illegal action. Returned from a visit with family in Lebanon. Source: Times of India and my friend who works there. There are, like, to be clear, right now, hundreds of people getting disappeared, probably every day. I don't think fascism even properly describes how horrible MAGA is. No, this is definitionally pretty much by the book fascism. And all of the previous descriptors of fascism that I or that other people have invoked have just been like, all of this exists along a continuity of political thought, but it's all the same thing, you know? Like, what's happening now is the same as they're eating the cats and the dogs, is the same as January 6th, is the same as building a wall down by the southern border. It's all exactly the same thing. The idiosyncrasies of fascism mean they can shift from point to point, they can adjust their tone, but at the end of the day, like, this was always it. It's just a matter of whether or not they get the leverage necessary to do all the things they want to do.